So like I said, 3.1 is inequalities. You guys have done equations, right? What's an equation? Numbers, variables, but what does it have in it? Equal sign, okay? Equations have equal signs. Inequalities have these signs. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, okay? Those are the things that we're going to be working with today, but it's the same process as when you're solving an equation, okay? So we're going to talk through some of these problems here and see how this goes. Example 1 says, write an inequality for this verbal expression. So the expression says all real numbers x less than or equal to -7. Your job is to write that inequality as an expression or as an inequality setup. So for instance, this right here, all real numbers x, is just talking about x, right? So that is this. Kate, wait till after the lesson. No, after the lesson. Get some hand sanitizer. Okay, well, I don't want you to miss this. So all real numbers x, okay? Then it says less than or equal to. What is that?
Is that one?
Which one?
The third one.
No, that's greater than or equal to. It's the fourth one. It's this symbol, right? So x less than or equal to, and then you have -7. Okay? So my expression right now is x is less than or equal to -7. That would be what you write for that sentence.
So you just write it like what they're saying?
You take those words and you turn them into symbols. Okay? All right. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. It says 6 less than a number k. It's not saying, oh, no, that's okay. It's not saying 6 is less than, okay? It's saying 6 less than k. How do we write 6 less than k?
6 minus the second one. Okay.
It's not 6 minus k. Okay, you could write it that way. Remember, this is the one when it's less than like that, we often switch it, right? We're saying minus. So really what we're saying here is k minus 6. And then is greater than, okay? So greater than is which of those 4 symbols? First, second, third, or fourth? The first one, right? So 6 less than a number k is greater than 13. So your inequality setup would be k minus 6 is greater than 13. Okay? Let's just write how we say these so we know. This symbol is greater than. Okay, if we add the bar under it, is greater than, or what? Or equal to. Okay, this one, actually let's do less than first, is less than. And this one is less than or equal to. Okay, so those are the symbols. That's how they are said every single time. If it's facing that way, that is the way you say it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out solutions to these inequalities. Can I move away from the blue? Not yet. What if we do this? Okay. So that next line, it says a blank of an inequality. That is a solution of an inequality. Okay, so we're going to write a solution of an inequality is any number that makes the inequality what? Any guesses?
Equal.
Not equal. Not less. Like if I say, this is just an example, you don't need to take notes on this, okay? If I say x is greater than 4, and I tell you x is 6, then 6 is greater than 4 is what? True, right? That is a true inequality. So you can have true inequalities or you can have false inequalities, right? That is not true. We're saying a solution is anything that makes it true. So we are looking for true inequalities when we plug these numbers in. Okay? So what they're going to say is the number, example 2 here, is the number a solution of this inequality. Okay? So we're plugging two different numbers in. First thing we're going to plug in is a -3. So when I plug a -3 into here, it's going to be 2 times -3 plus 1 is greater than -3. Let's work that out. What is your left side of that inequality going to be?
-6 plus
2 times -3 is -6. What's -6 plus 1?
-7.
The other way.
Other side.
-5, right? -6 plus 1. If you add 1, you're getting bigger, and -5 is actually a bigger number than -6, right? Because we're negative. Think number line, right? If you think of a number line like this, if this is -6, then this is -5, and that's a bigger number. The further to the right you go, the bigger the number. So we get, as a solution here, that -5 is greater than -3. Is that true? That's false. That's not true, right? So when they say, is it a solution? We would say no, it's not a solution because -5 is not greater than -3. Okay? Now we do it with -1. So now we're going to take this number and we're going to plug it in here. Let me switch colors so I'm not confusing you with what's what. So it's going to be 2 times -1 plus 1 is greater than -3. What's 2 times -1? -2 plus 1 is greater than -3. What's -2 plus 1? -1. So this is saying -1 is greater than -3. Is that true?
Yes.
That is true, right? If you think of a number line, here's 0. This would be -1, -2. This would be -3. The further left you go, the smaller your number is getting, right? So -3 is smaller than -1. In other words, -1 is greater than -3. So is this a solution? Your answer would be yes. Okay? Make sure you don't just stop the question here. The question's asking, is it a solution? That's a yes or no. Okay? So make sure you tell me yes or no for those. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, so now you're going to need to know how to graph these because then we're going to solve some and you will have to graph it. So your graphs, we're just going to do one of each type of symbol. What you need to note, maybe we'll put this over here, is this. When you have less than or greater than, you're going to do an open dot. When you have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you're going to have a closed dot. Okay? I want you to think about why. If I said, let me just show you on this first one. So this first one says that n is less than 1. Okay? Typically what I do is I say put in a 0 just so we have a frame of reference. You don't need to count how many spaces there are. Just put the number in that we're working with. So we're working with a 1. Okay? So 1 is here. If n is less than 1, is 1 included in your answer? No, because 1 is not less than 1. Okay? So that's why we say when it's less than, it's an open dot because 1 is not part of your answer. So I would put an open dot at 1. And then If n is less than 1, do you think my arrow, my shading is going to go to the left or to the right? To the left. If it's less than 1, it's all the numbers that are less than 1. So when you graph this, it should be an open dot and shading to the left. Let me show you a little trick with this. If your variable is first, your symbol makes an arrow, okay? So if you look right here, n is less than 1. If I turn it into an arrow, it tells you what direction your arrow is going. It's going to the left, okay? The thing is, that only works if your variable comes first. I'll show you in a minute what I mean. So look at this next one. A is greater than or equal to 0. So like I said, we always start with a 0 just so we have a frame of reference. Is this going to be an open or closed dot? Closed, because if it's a greater than or equal to 0, it can equal 0, right? So 0 is included. So we want to fill in that dot. So you're going to put a filled in dot here.
Going to the right.
Okay, and then your arrow, if we draw an arrow in, that arrow is pointing to the right. So you're going to shade to the right. Think about what that means. A is greater than or equal to 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all greater than 0. Okay, so those would be good answers. I don't need those little hash marks. You just need the 0, the point, and the arrow. Okay? Okay, so, yeah, Brooklyn.
So for D, when we get there, it's not going to be like the arrow one, right?
Right, we'll get there. Yeah. Okay, third one. F is greater than -3. So if this is my 0, -3 is going to be over here somewhere. Is it going to be open or closed? It's going to be open. Okay. Let's do a different color so it stands out a little more. So it's an open dot at -3. What direction is your arrow going to go?
Right.
To the right. If I make this an arrow, because my variable's first, I'm going to point it to the right. And if you think about that, if it's greater than -3, 7 is greater than -3. 0 is greater than -3. So 7 and 0 should be in your shading, which is all to the right. Okay? Now, Brooklyn hit the nail on the head here. D is different. Okay? If I were you, I would rearrange it because I think it makes more sense to people to see it the other way. If you don't need to do that, that's fine. You can graph it as you see it here as long as you're going to graph it correctly from that. I would put the variable first. So what happens if I put the variable on the left and the -2 on the right? What happens with my symbol? It's got to switch. So if it's greater than or equal to, it's going to be less than or equal to. So if I were you, I would graph this just because it's what we're used to and it's a little simpler. Okay? If you want to graph it straight from that, I'm fine with that as long as you understand it. Okay? Okay, so where am I going to put my point? At -2. So if this is 0, I'm going to go -2. Okay? Don't let that 0 throw you off. The most common mistake I see made on these is people put a point on the 0. We're just putting the 0 in there so we know where we are on a number line. Just keeping it all relative, okay? Don't put points at 0 unless, like this one, your number is 0, all right? Okay, so our number's -2. Is it open or closed? It's a closed dot. How do you say this symbol? Less than or equal to, right? So when it's pointing to the left, it's less than, right? When it's pointing to the left, it's less than. So x is less than or equal to, closed dot. So we're going to shade it to the left, and that would be our graph. Okay? If the 0 throws you off, just forget about the 0. I'd rather you not have the 0 and do it correctly than to put the 0 in and shade on the 0. The 0 means nothing to our graph other than gives us an idea of where we are on a number line. Okay? Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you try this one. 3 is greater than or equal to A. Try that on your own real quick. Try it in pencil in case you do it wrong, or you can just draw another graph next to it if you do it wrong. 3 is greater than or equal to A. Okay, out of curiosity, how many of you rewrote it? How many of you did not rewrite it? Okay. Like I said, I don't care if you don't, as long as you understand what to do with it, okay? I'm going to rewrite it. What would it say if we rewrite it? A is less than or equal to. Flip it around, and then 3. Okay, so here's our 3. Well, we'll do 0 here. So 3 is going to be to the right of 0. Is this open or closed? It's a closed dot. And what direction are we shading?
Left.
To the left. Because A is less than or equal to. Remember, less than to the left. Less than to the left. Okay? Okay. Number 4, making the notes like this, it's a pain in the butt to try and put points and arrows on a line already there. So you're going to draw this in with me, and then we'll come up with the inequality. So draw this for me, okay? If this is 0 here, and this is -1, you're going to do a closed dot and an arrow to the right. Don't tell me yet what it is, because I want you all to have a chance to see if you can get it. For the second one, this is 0. We're going to put a 4 over here. This is going to be an open dot, and you're going to shade to the left. Okay, so your job is to figure out if you can write an inequality. So we're just reversing what we did in example 3. I gave you the inequality in example 3, and you had to graph it. Now I'm giving you the graph, and you got to see if you can come up with the inequality. What would that first one say?
A is less than or equal to -1.
Okay, but remember, less than goes to the left, right? And which way is our arrow going? Arrow's going to the right. So A is greater than, and do we have an equal to?
Yes.
Why? Because the dot is closed, okay? So A is greater than or equal to, you may use any variable you want, X, N, whatever. Pick your letter of your first name. A is greater than or equal to, and then the number that we're at is -1. Okay? So you try it on B. See if you can come up with what that inequality should be. Oh, that's a good point. Do M. There you go. Okay. What did you get for B?
4 is greater than B. No, A is less than 4.
Okay, so you can say A or X or M or whatever is less than 4. What's the other way you could write it? 4 is greater than A. Okay, so either one of these is fine. Same thing over here. You could have said -1 is less than or equal to A. That would be fine too, but just pick one, okay? I think more people relate to the first one we did, but you don't have to do it that way, okay? That's up to you. Okay, last one. This is more real world, and I feel like this type of thing is really good for like you reasoning through a real life scenario. So for instance, it says what inequality represents the situation. This one says train rides starting at $19.99. Okay, so if my train rides are going to be T, can you write an inequality with T for me? Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to.
Yeah.
Is it going to have the equal to bar on it?
No. Yes.
It says they start at $19.99, right? So $19.99 can be the price. So if it can equal that thing, we're going to have the bar. Okay, so we know we're going to have the bar. Are the train rides going to be greater than or equal to $19.99 or less than or equal to? Greater than. If they start at $19.99, they're just going to get more expensive, right? They always give you the cheapest price on things. So T is going to be greater than or equal to $19.99. Does that make sense? Okay, so now think speed limit. I don't know what speed limit is 8 miles per hour.
That's the answer?
That's a weird mile per hour. I should have done like 55, but it was 8. This is your answer.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're just looking for the inequality that shows you the situation. Okay? Okay. Okay, so this one, it says the speed limit is 8 miles per hour. So let's say S is speed. Okay? Can you go 8 miles per hour?
No. That'd be late.
Yeah. Right? So that's slow. Maybe this is a biker. Maybe bikers can't go more than 8 miles per hour somewhere. I don't know. A snail. Maybe it's a snail. Okay, so we know we have an 8, and we know we can equal that 8. So we know we're going to have the bar.
Less than.
Okay? If the speed limit is 8 miles per hour, less than or greater than? Less than, because you can go 8, but that's the limit. That's as high as you can go. So less than or equal to 8, and that would be... these ones are tricky, but you got to really think about, like, okay, if the limit is 8, I could go less than that, but I can't go more than that, right? If the speed limit is 60, you're supposed to go 60 or less to not get a ticket. Yeah.
Why do we have 2 lessons today?
Because it's a block day.
Oh,